You are listening to Adulting with Ebony. Season 7 brings together neurodiversity, human design and embodiment so that Gen X or millennial misfits and late diagnosed neurospices become empowered, embodied and fully expressed. This is the show where I actively encourage you to feel your feelings rather than think them. Glow up, not grow up, and become full of yourself. Because who the fuck else should you be full of? Each week, I have real and raw conversations about what it takes to be fully resourced and have happy, healthy, intimate relationships as a dopamine-deficient adult wanting to create a better future by being the change that you want to see in the world. I am your host, Ebony Allard, aka Ebony Alchemy, a late diagnosed ADHDer, combined type and Asperger's in case you like specifics, artist, mystic, and self-actualization facilitator. I'm an international award-winning multiple brain integration technique master coach with special interest in embodied human design for neurodivergence. I've been in the personal development, creativity, and entrepreneurship spaces all of my life, and as a 5'2" emotional manifesting generator with a left angle cross of distraction, I am here to help you know what to trust and what to tune out. Each week, I share relatable, practical ways that mean you get to take less responsibility for more reward and safely remove your camouflage for more belonging, acceptance, and fulfillment. Ready? Let's go. Hi. So this week's episode is going to be slightly different. I'm really excited about it and a little bit nervous. And I'll tell you why in a second. We are going to be exploring the Kismet Codes and in celebration of the launch of the deck. And as you are listening to this, if you were listening to it as it's just come out, just taken receivership of the next 300 decks. So that's 200 gone, another 300 here. Kind of in awe of this, by the way. And my next task is to continue inquiring about wholesale and seeing who would like to have them in their independent shops. And I am in the process also of writing a book proposal and the proposal for my second deck, which will be much more astrology based and have some numerology in there as well. So for now, and one more aside, if you're listening to this on the day that it airs, I may not have completed the back end of the Kismet Codes. So one of the really cool things when you get yourself a copy of the Kismet Code Oracle deck, what you will get when you open it on the inside of, looking at the wrong bit, on the inside of the book, what you'll find is a QR code, and that QR code will take you to the audios and also some spread options for you to use them to dive a little bit more into your Kismet Codes, Gene Keys, I Ching, Human Design Gates, whatever language you want to use. For me, it is all the same information presented in a slightly different way. And one of my greatest gifts is being able to synthesize that information and then present it to you in a way that lands for you and that is really tangible and accessible and makes it easier to learn and live, because it is not learned unless it's embodied. And I am all about embodying your design. If you are interested in the next round of Embody Your Design, then please do put yourself on the waitlist now. The next live round will be in September. And going forward, I will do 3 Embody Your Design sprints a year. 2 of those will be straight Embody Your Design. One of them will be an aligned and expressed version, which is specifically around relationship and relating to others. And in this solo episode, I'm going to explore the Venus sequence. And the Venus sequence is all about love. And Venus really is all about what we value. And given that everything in my world starts with your value filter, it makes sense for us to be sharing this. Now, when you get your deck, You scan the QR code, you will go through to put your email address in, go through to a bit where the audios are, and then there are a couple of videos with different spreads and some PDFs that you can download as well. And what I was trying to say before I distracted myself is that if you're listening to this just as it's been launched, I may not have finished all of those audios. At the time of recording, I think I've done 27, which is fascinating because that means the next one I need to do is 28, which is my purpose, but we'll get into that in a moment. I'm going to leave my book out because I think I may need it. So, the Venus sequence. Now, the Venus sequence comes from the gene keys, and Ra, who is the founder, channel for human design, was sharing everything that he downloaded and was learning with Richard Rudd. And this was in the late 80s. And at some point, and I am a lot of two-line, so don't look at me for details, go read it yourself if it interests you. And at some point, their interest in this knowledge kind of split, right? And they had, and all of this wisdom is available, it's ancient, we are remembering it. And there is opportunity for generative learning and for individual insight in all of this, right? And the I Ching is the oldest book known to man. And so this wisdom has been around a really, really long time. But the way that the I Ching was worded and then reworded and written in human design in Gates form by Ra, and then into the gene keys by Richard Rudd, is the same transmission. It's the same coded information, but each through the filter of each different person as they're sharing it. And so when you get the Kismet codes, you're getting my filtered version from everything that I have read. And in the book, I credit some of the teachers who've really helped me to understand these different codings, and then also link it in with the body, because that's really, really important to me. So the Venus sequence talks of our relationship with values and with love. And so what I wanted to do in this episode is to share quite vulnerably, really, my chart and this spread, and give you an opportunity to hear me kind of in real time, looking at what this means for me or how I interpret this information today, because it will change, because our relationship with ourselves and with time and with everything changes. And all of this information is not finite. There is no finite truth. What there is an interpretation at this moment in time, which gives us some kind of insight, which informs how we be in the world. And it is all perfect. And so I'm going to attempt to do this. I'm going to attempt to kind of share my chart a little bit, share the information. When I'm doing the live events that I will continue to be doing, and so the next one is in Philadelphia in the end of July, beginning of August, so the 3rd and 4th of August, I am doing a very, very intimate in-person event. This is the kind of thing that we're going to be doing. So we're going to be looking at your maps. And for me, like I said, I integrate all of this language. So whether you come to me with an understanding of astrology, or some an understanding of human design, or an understanding of numerology, or it doesn't matter to me, because to me it's all the same language, and I see it all and I see you. And what my job is to be the wandering storyteller. Gate 56 is my sun, my life's work, and my brand, if you like, and help you to understand yourself better, so that you fall wildly in love with yourself and move from self-doubt to an unshakable self-trust, because you get that it's all here, right? As above, so below, as inside, so without. The maps are here, what our soul chose to learn and experience in this lifetime was determined before we arrived. And again, time, and
the kind of free will or fate part of that is that it is your own, it is your choose your own adventure story, right? Like the map is there, the beginning, middle, and end, some lessons and experiences that you wanted to contemplate and live. And then each step along the way, we have free will. We get to choose yes or no. We get to use our authority or not. We get to make decisions about who we be and where our power is and whether we are using and enjoying and being in our physical body and whether we are expressing our emotions, because ultimately we are soul, having or spirit in soul form, you know, in physical matter, in a body, having a human experience. And that human experience, that the thing that we cannot experience as spiritual beings, as light, as energy, is the physical experience and the emotional experience. So we are here to have a physical and emotional experience and to express it through our unique human filter. And the only version of you that exists in the world is you, which is remarkable. When you start to read your own maps and embody it, you can't help but be fascinated and fall in love, and you can't help but be affirmed. And so, what I want for you through Embody Your Design, through Misfit to Maven, through the Value Filter, through all of the programs and experiences that I hold and work with, is for you to have your true nature affirmed and for you to learn how to state shift, alchemize, or activate for polarity or for harmony, right? And later in the year, my next kind of signature thing will be dropping, and that is Kismet Flicks. And Kismet Flicks is going to be the Gaia TV or the Sky TV for healers and helpers, leaders and founders and neurospices who relate to this and who want bite-sized chunks of all of this information in a way that inspires, gives them a different perspective, and helps them fall more in love with themselves. It's for you if you don't want to certify in any of these things, but you want to be the expert on your own design. Then you get to come and learn and enjoy and be inspired. All of that inside Kismet Flicks. You get to embody it inside Embody Your Design. You get to really get your compass from the value filter so that you can come back to alignment again and again. And if you are having trouble like setting up your foundations in life, then Misfit to Maven the Fundamentals is for you, because that really shows you how to be an adult, how to human, really, like how to receive resource, how to run your business, how to do relationships, how to know what is you and what is not you. Like, all of that is inside Misfit Maven. And that has been the last 10 years for me. It's been really like setting that piece up, and it continues to be a really core piece of work. And my kind of new signature program for the next 10 years and the thing that I'm going to be doing live online is Embody Your Design. And then the kind of teach part of that will happen inside Kismet Flicks. And then if you want support, you get to come in the Maven Haven and either the free group or the paid, the inner circle, where I coach every Thursday. So that's how the cohesive world of me exists, and how you get to choose your own adventure and become a part of that in a way that has agency for you and sovereignty for you, and activates all of your illuminated archetypes. And I'm going to get to the main bit of today, and I'm going to see whether I can share my screen as I do this. So if you're watching, you're going to move through to, we're going to have a little moment. And then if you're listening, I will continue to explain what I am seeing. So these PDFs here are inside and come free with the Kismet Codes Oracle deck. So when you go into the back end of the Kismet Codes audios, so when you've scanned your QR code, put your email address in, comment, then you will find the whole library of audios, and each one is me reading the blurb for each code out and an embodiment exercise that isn't in the book. Then at the bottom of the page, there are these PDFs. And the first sequence is the activation or genius sequence, which is the same as your incarnation cross. And this is really, really important as a great place for you to start, because you get to really understand what you're here to do, what you're here to learn, what keeps you healthy, and what deeply fulfills you. And then, and this is an example of how you might then fill that out. Oh, so many spelling mistakes. And so you get to put your own information in and really contemplate what that means for you. And then the prosperity sequence is really how you activate your own abundance, activate your own prosperity by understanding your life's work, the culture that you create, like what your vocation is, what you're here to heal and share, and what that will activate, and your pearl, right? The thing that really is going to quantum expand and create prosperity for you in the world. And so again, like this is what mine would look like, me having filled mine in. But the one that we are going to talk about today, and that I wanted to dive into in a little bit more depth, is the Venus sequence, because Venus is all about values. It is about receptivity. It is about resource. It's about intimacy. And that's what all of my work is really for, right? The purpose of my work is so that you feel belonging and freedom and are open to receptivity and are open to moving to a place of feeling isolated and alone, or being hyper independent and doing everything for everybody else, but not being in that place of fulfillment, of satisfaction, of receivership. So this is what the PDF looks like, and there's guidance instructions, and I'm going to do another video inside there, which I haven't made yet, but is coming soon for you. And this is then what mine looks like. And what I thought I would do is go into this a little bit so that you can see how it works. So if we start with the vocation. So your vocation is the first piece in this spread that you want to be looking at. And it is the journey of transforming your deepest wound into your unique gifts. And where you'll find this is your unconscious or your design Mars. And so for me, that is gate 29, and it is the faithful devotee. So my vocation, the thing that I am here to transform, is gate 29 or code 29, which is the faithful devotee, and is really about transmuting or transforming the wound of half-heartedness through commitment into devotion. It is about saying yes. It is about novel experiences. It is about being faithful and devoted to the things that matter. It is about being dedicated, adventurous, and hungry for new experiences, and for sticking with the challenging situations, and really knowing what to commit to, what to have faith in, what to devote yourself to, and really understanding that commitment, faith, and devotion are magical medicine when they come from what truly lights you up, but poison when they come from obligation, fear, or as an attempt to prove your worthiness. Code 29 loves to say yes and loves to go deep emotionally, sexually, in business and in its studies. And that is very true for me. And the journey of transforming this deep wound of half-heartedness, of commitment, of nobody commits to me, everybody is half-hearted around me, which means that then I show up fully and committed, and I'm all in. And one of the easiest places for me to say that is true is in my business. And there are times when I have stayed too long with things in my business that don't work for me. And it's also true that I have stayed too long in relationships, or got out too early when when they're hard, when they're uncomfortable for me, right? I've been in a place of half-heartedness rather than commitment or devotion. And so the lesson and the journey of transforming my deepest wound of half-heartedness into my unique gifts of devotion is my vocation. Like, that is what I am here on a very, very deep level to experience. And in knowing that I create waves, that I get trapped in cycles of trying to prove my worthiness, that I stay devoted to things that don't really matter, that I can end up depleted, frustrated, and burnt out, but that I also have incredible stamina, that I don't care about success and failure, that it's the experience that matters, right? That I am daring, that I love to say yes, that I'm deeply devotional, transformational, tantric, willing and prepared, and know that all of it is worth the experience. Like, that is the vocation. That is the first transformation that I need to make. And really understand that when I commit, I'm committing to an experience purely for the experience's sake, not for a particular outcome. And actually, like, saying that, I'm like, yeah, I've done so much work on that recently, and and there will be more to come, because this is my vocation, right? And so then we move into the SQ, and your SQ in the gene keys is what connects you to your vitality and where your inner child feels at home. This is the place that was activated for you between 0 and 7. And so it's a place where you go when your inner child is activated in some way, okay? And for me, that is gate 45, and it is the generous guardian. And there's two things I want to say about that. Because the next, a little bit further down the IQ is we'll move to it in a minute, but that's the conscious personality, conscious or personality Venus, and mine are both gate 45 or code 45, but one is line 1 and one is line 5. And I'm not going to get into lines today, but that is something that we can do if you work with me one-to-one, or if you come to an immersion experience where we do this stuff, or there are lots of options for that, right? Right now, I'm just going to talk about the particular code. And so what connects me to my vitality and where my inner child feels at home is the generous guardian. And this is gate 45, which is all about stewardship and control of resources for the community, providing the resources for harmony in the community and its expansion and prosperity. Urged to gather and bring together, it educates for future well-being and synergy. Code 45 knows that both the spiritual and mundane power of money and resources and distributes resources equitably. It leads in an instinctual way and may not feel fair, but serves the greater good. And this piece for me of like, where do I go? Like, what connects me to my vitality, and where do I go? And where does my inner child feel at home? That is instinctual leadership, right? It is creating prosperity. It is also knowing that when I am in that inner child place, I can be deeply triggering for others. I can be entitled. I can also be in poverty consciousness when my inner child is activated, and really understanding resource on a fundamental level and what that means, because this is line 1 for me, is a real part of that. And there are many, many reasons for that. Like, if I look back at my life between 0 and 7, there was no resource. There was, we lived in community. I was in an incubator. That my relationship with resource was interesting. That's all I'm going to go with today, right? And so then when we then move down into the EQ, which is the conscious or personality in Mars. This is where you go when you're in a teenager is activated potentially, right? So it's the shadow that you adopted as your primary defense when you feel unsafe, and you adopted this somewhere between 7 and 14. And for me, this is code 18, and it's the integrity improver. And I see this very clearly in myself as a defense mechanism when I feel unsafe, okay? And so the integrity improver is all about improvement and wholeness, vigilant in challenging authority where it sees those in charge making mistakes and diminishing aliveness. Code 18 confronts because it sees the natural potential for perfection in all things. It's the therapist gate, and it supports people in times of crisis to come to terms with the past. Code 18 knows what's been spoiled and desires to heal, correct, and optimize. And that is something that is very, very true for me. And we're looking at the shadow side here, right? So the Gene Keys version of this is judgment, integrity, and perfection. And the human design is correction and improvement. And what happens and what happens for me when I'm in defense and when the shadow side of this is when my shadow is activated, whether that is my saboteur, whether that's my child, whether that's my martyr, or my inner prostitute, this is I can say yes, this often gets activated for me, because what that looks like is a fear of authority that will come through as either a superiority complex or an inferiority complex. So my too much not enoughness comes through, and my wanting to control the whole picture and stay in integrity is very, very clear to me as something that comes through. Now, the light end, you will have heard me talk about. So the light end walks its talk, and that's how I want people to see me. It is my emotional intelligence, right? Like, I actually am somebody who really walks their talk and sees clearly and sees inherent human potential and believes that improvement is always possible, and offers critical analysis for healing, psychology, improvement, and parenting, right? Like, accurate, 100% accurate. And the piece for me to really look at is the shadow end and the defense strategy, which is impossible standards, can't help but see flaws, can get stuck on the details, and becomes a victim of judgment. I mean, I'm not going to say anything else because I feel very exposed. And I really know that this is true for me, that this is a place that I go when I'm unsafe. And the more that I know this, the more that I can catch it and being like, okay, are you holding yourself and others to impossible standards? Are you feeling unsafe? What is it that you need to feel safe? And then I can go and look at my unconscious earth, for example, which is my radiance, which is my health, which is code 27, and really nourish myself, because there are guides in that as to how I can make myself feel sovereign. I can take back my power, come back into my own agency. Okay. Now, in this particular sequence, if we're activating, the Venus, we're activating our values, we're activating a life of receptivity, we're activating deep resource and relationship, then the next step in that is to come and look at our IQ. And the IQ, it was developed in between 14 and 21, and the shadow of this governs the way in which you learned to use your mind to try and control your emotions and override your intuition. Now, for me, this is gate 45, and it's now in line 5 in this position. So in this position, it was line 1, and this position is line 5. And this is my intellect. This is how my mind tries to control me and override my body wisdom and my intelligence, and override my intuition, right? Override my authority, my internal authority. So how does my mind try and do that? Well, we talked about the generous guardian before, and the shadow end of that being leadership, triggering for others, poverty consciousness, entitled, and kind of dictatorship, my way or the highway. Now, what this looks like for me when my mind is trying to override my intuition is it the thought that comes up is the only person who can do this is me. I need to be responsible for all of our resources. If I just make more money, everything would be easier. And the way that this comes up is also I can have love or I can have money, right? Which one can I can't have both. And that's not true, but that is something that is prevalent and is in my mind when I am overriding my body wisdom. Now, for me, these are quite complex because they are the same, right? The unconscious design Venus and the conscious or personality Venus. In terms of like, what am I really leaning into? Overall, it's the generous guardian, right? I really get to work with that archetype and be a good steward and be generous, which is something that is so important to me. And the way to raise the frequency here is to look for a win-win in all situations, and remember that when one member of the kingdom is suffering, the whole kingdom suffers, and when every member of the kingdom is thriving, the whole kingdom thrives. And that is very much where I go. But that can lead me to forget about myself. It can lead me to serve everybody else but myself. And so it's a very interesting balance of really looking at the programming partner, which is code 26, the artful ego, and recognizing if my pride is getting in the way, and if it wasn't getting in the way, how would I operate? How would I be? And that's how all of these pieces work together, right? Is you get to look at the programming partner and raise the frequency, really bring it out of the shadow into a lighter frequency so that it moves from dominance into synergy and then into communion. And you will have heard me talk about synergy a lot, right? Because this is something that's very important to me, and it's not something that I knew by reading the gene keys or understanding. It's just something that is innate in my knowing because it's in my coding, because it's in my cells. And the more in alignment we are, the more in alignment we are. And it's not necessarily about learning this stuff, but what this work does is help us remember who we are, because we don't need to know it with our minds. It is coded into us. What we need to do is get our not self, our mind or our undefined centers or our conditioning out of the way so that our true self, our wild and true self, can be more us, can be more you. And that is why, like, my sign off for 10 years has been stay wild, stay true, be more you. Because ultimately, when you're being yourself, there is nothing to do and everything to be. So once we've worked out and activated our IQ in this way, then we move into the attraction sphere. And our attraction sphere, this is our unconscious or design moon. And this is what is the mystery or the mysterious magnetism that draws karmic relationships into our lives at specific times. And so this is working for me all of the time. It's the bit that you might have been attracted to unconsciously, and which draws people into my world. And actually, it's why I get a lot of people with this particular code in their sun coming to me and working with me or being in my community, right? My peers, is for me at code 33, which is the wisdom keeper. And code 33 is all about mindful reflection and making space for wisdom to be revealed from our stories. And code 33 knows that there is beauty in all things, including painful memories from both our own and our ancestors' past. It creates sacred space to see and allow experiences and memories to be honored and alchemized into wisdom. And that is my attraction. That is what, when I allow that to be and it's unconscious, right? Like it's in my body. It's happening whether or not I want it to. I'm very happy for it to, but this is in my unconscious, and this is the mystery, my magnetism and attraction. So if I know that, then I can turn it up slightly, then I can be aware of it, and I can allow people to see it, right? And then we have our purpose. And this is what, excuse me, this is what is deeply fulfilling for us. And let's see whether I can, no, I don't think I can. I think that is the bottom. So it is your unconscious or design earth. This is a really important player in your world, in your design, and it shows up in a lot of the different sequences. And this one is a big deal in a lot of the people I know. So there are a lot of people who I respect, admire, I'm attracted to, have in my world, who all have this gate somewhere in their chart. And it's a gate that is often talked of in a quite a scary way. And it is my purpose. It is what deeply fulfills me. And so I have really tried to rewrite it from being hard and harsh to being something beautiful, because it is my purpose, right? It's what deeply fulfills me. So when you trust in your highest dreams and you have the courage to manifest them through your life's work, then your purpose begins to nourish you from deep within your being. And my purpose is the purposeful player, Code 28, which is all about courage, purpose, and purposelessness. And I have written in the book, is there ever always a purpose? If you choose one, there absolutely is. That's the game of our collective and individual psyche. It's about understanding that we are living myths. Everything exists in duality with its shadow. Code 28 knows that risk, courage, and the unexpected are what make life the best game there is. The point is to live it all. And in human design, Gate 28 is the game player or purpose. And in human design, it's purposelessness, totality, and immortality. And it is all about facing the darkness in life with courage. It is about understanding that death is part of life, that we have this duality, that everything that makes us feel alive is also terrifying, that we get to live each minute as if it were our last, that nothing is too scary or too deep. And for me, the light end of this is enormous transformational capacity, courageous, meaningful, purposeful, like the things that are courageous, the things that are full of meaning, the things that are full of purpose, and people living in this way are what deeply fulfill me, right? There is nothing too scary. There is nothing too deep. There's nothing too emotional. There's nothing too full on that you can't bring me, because I can meet that. It gives me fulfillment and meaning and purpose to meet that without judgment in witness. And when I have given my power away, when I am not living a life of purpose, when I am overdoing it, when I'm not listening to my authority, when I'm not taking care of my health or my radiance, then I show up, or the shadow end shows up for me in my experience. And that looks like unsafe risk taking. I don't do that anymore, but I used to, get in the back of cars and hitchhike or take drugs from strangers on the street. Gambling, and that could be all sorts of gambling. I was never a gambler, but I've definitely taken risks with money, with people, with situations, and some of them pay off and some of them don't. And if I'm okay with doing it for the experience, then I'm in the light end of Gate 28, right? However, the shadow end really shows up for me in purposelessness. Like, what is the point? Like, I give, and what's the point? So the other side of Gate 28 is 27, which I call a considerate cup. And it's like, okay, this is a sign that I am out of nurture. that I have nothing to give, and that I need to nurture myself so that I can show up as somebody who can be in witness of it all. Because if I am like, what is even the point, then I'm not nourished, I'm not taking care of myself. And the point is at this point to take care of myself. And I can show up then in a place of stoicism. I can show up in a place of apathy, of numbness. And the shadow of gate 28 is the victim of the fear of letting go. And so again, this is another place because it's deeply, deeply scorpionic, is very, can clamp, right? Can hold on too long. And it is with all of these pieces that you can see, right? Particularly this gate 29 up here, my vocation, so my biggest learning lesson, and my purpose, which is here, these two pieces together, so much of my work is about my work in the world and for myself, not what I do for money, is about knowing when to hold on, when to let go, when staying is poison and when it's going to bring fulfillment, when it's going to be deeply fulfilling and purposeful, and when it's no longer healthy to do so. And that has been so the story of my life. And so it's such a fine line, and it's not a one and done. There isn't a place where it's like, okay, yeah, every situation is going to be different. And then we come back to these pieces of like, am I being a good and generous guardian of my energy with my spiritual knowledge and awareness, with my IQ, like is my mind working for me, is my spiritual intelligence working for me, is my emotional intelligence in a place of integrity, like all of this stuff, like am I allowing myself to be the wisdom keeper, to share that wisdom, to own my own wisdom. Like all of these pieces are what are going to bring me relationship, attraction, resource, and receptivity, and ultimately what I value. So this episode feels deeply, deeply personal and vulnerable, and hopefully also full of resource for you. And so I would love to know how this landed. If you have got your deck, then please do follow the QR code, go in there. I'm going to upload that PDF now. And so by the time you watch it, it'll be in there. If you haven't yet got your deck, I will make sure that somewhere near this video or in the show notes for the episode, there is a link to get your deck. I am in awe of the way that these cards are landing. You know, for me, it has been a labor of love. Yeah, they are deeply important to me, a deep part of my storytelling. They bring together tears. They bring to, and the time as I'm recording this is 1, 2, 3, 4. Of course it is. They bring together all of the things that I was told off for at school. So storytelling and doodling, and my love of synthesizing big ideas and concepts and making them relatable. They are coded with healing, transformational magic. I'm a gift, a destiny 9, so they have got abundance and healing and infinity and personal power sewn into them, as along with commitment, devotion, grace, and a deeply, deeply feminine essence. And I genuinely hope that you love them as much as I do. I am in the process of looking for a publisher and distributor for them and the next deck and the next book. So if you're listening and you're one of those, please get in touch. And if you are listening and you're not one of those, but you would like for me to write my next book, which is called Becoming Full of Yourself, and there are parts of that. It's about stop living as if you are a problem to be solved and start living as if you are made of magic. So yeah, I'm in the process behind the scenes of inviting people in to support me in writing and then delivering that book. And then the second Kismet Codes deck, which is astrology and numerology based, so that you can map out your whole chart and see it visually and really get to feel it, hold it, know it, love it. That's the point. As I say, this episode has been quite raw and vulnerable for me. So I would really love to have your feedback. Do you like this? Would you like more of this kind of thing? Yeah, I'd love to share more about how I see all of these maps, your astrological map. Astrology is a language, right? It's a language of earth and sky and of correspondence, as is numerology, as is human design, as is Gene Keys. And I can come at it from whatever angle, but ultimately why I do that is, and what I'm interested in, is you becoming full of yourself so that you can flourish and thrive, so that you can be empowered, embodied, and fully expressed in the world. And it brings me so much joy to have reached a point in my life where I get that. And it gets to be simple, it gets to be easy. And on that note, I shall love you and leave you. Have a great, great week. Please do make sure that you ask me comments or drop your things on the YouTube video if you're watching it on YouTube, or come find me on Instagram. You can always DM me and message me there. I love it when you engage with me. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate and review, and share the episode with a friend. Thank you so much.